Hey, hello everybody. Just like to introduce Madame BACACHE, who's from the Cercle des Économistes, and she will do the introduction to our theme of this afternoon on sports as an integration and excellence relay. And you know that we need a lot of integration these days to live together. So Maya, the floor is yours, dear. So thank you very much. Sport is not conventional topic for economists. The first work on the sports economy dates back to the 1950s. So it's a new discipline as far as this is concerned, and it really picked up in the 90s and 80s and 90s. What we got interested in as economists is not the integration. The first topic that were addressed, two main topics in fact that were addressed, is the first, sport as entertainment, in particular the importance of advertisement in the financing of shows of entertainment. We call them the multi-face markets, so that the people come to see the show, the players play for the show, but all this is financed by a third actor that wants to grab the attention of the audience to sell his or her products, what you have, and they thus finance sports. So it's a big field of research in economy. To have a better idea, the sports as entertainment represents 1% of the GDP, so big stakes, financially speaking. The second topic the economists were interested in was the salaries, the wages paid to players, and the inequality in the wages. It's the economy of the star system, and Françoise Benamou is with us, know this topic very well, written a lot intensively. So what is the simple explanation for this is that in sports and other entertainment sectors, the talents are specific and not be substituted, and on the offer side you have a scale result. You know, in football you can have a different audience, a multitude of people watching the game, and so there's an extreme wage paid for these rare talents. So the initial difference of talent will represent a big difference in the wages paid to the players. So one of the big axes of work in economy, very little on integration. Integration will be studied by social scientists, the first to have worked on this topic. And here I must admit, go back on the topic for today, there's a great consensus, whether with social scientists or politicians. With the social scientists, we have two authors, Norbert Elias and Bourdieu, that you probably know. And with Elias, there is a big theorization. The sports is a process of civilization, so we bring back the rules of violence to sports rules and that are regulated and controlled. Very important in this civilization process. Bourdieu will insist also on the transmission of values through sports. We'll go back on that. The value of fair play, for example, which were bourgeois values in his opinion. So little economic work. So back to my subject, to say that unfortunately economists are not really optimistic on the positive impact of sports for integration. No work has really been done, no studies have been done, no results, no positive measures on the impact of sports on integration. There are even negative impacts, and we'll talk about this, particularly with women. The woman has a more masculine type of activity, discrimination, and stakes with the racialization, with cliches that appear. I will not offend you by mentioning them. You know what I'm referring to. So the real question is, what can the authorities do under these conditions? We can be surprised by seeing the consensus, political consensus from the 1930s with the fascist movements right to after the wars with the Gaullists and the communists, who all adhere to the idea that sports is good for civilization, for integration, and for the living together. And as a shocking introduction, why don't we observe empirical facts on integration? The only impacts the economists observe are the two. The role model effect, that is, that population that are not integrated by seeing the example of some, whether women or men, or immigrants. So it's a role model that enables to project oneself, to identify oneself the integration process. And the other positive effect is on the economy of feelings. There's a work by Claude Assinic that shows that during the Olympic Games of London, Berlin, Paris, during the Olympic Games, you observe that during the Olympic Games, people are happier. This effect is transitory. I don't know if we'll experience this in Paris. I have a few doubts for Paris, but nevertheless, it's a positive result that we could observe. Just to launch the debate, but I'm sure our guests here will be more optimistic than what I just said. Thank you very much, Maya. Well, in fact, if in 3 weeks we can be happy thanks to the Olympic Games, it'll be great. But in any way, I think we can start by sharing something. When we had our discussions preparing this roundtable, we all wondered why the Cercle des Économistes was asking us to devote this roundtable on this notion of sports. You know, we know there are not very many economic studies on this theme, excellence integration in sports, and we wondered if this roundtable would be interesting to people. And in the end, well, if the answers would contribute, we would propose would contribute to the public debate in these Rencontres Économiques. And of course, the recent news of really the dissolution of the National Assembly, the debates in the recent weeks have shed a light on a France that is partialized, radicalized, worried, and upset. And by continuing our exchanges with this new landscape, well, one thing came as obvious is that, in fact, we have the solution. We have the solutions. Our guests here have a solution. What the political model, I'm sorry, Renaud, but did it fail? Did the political model fail? What if we tried the sports model, these values, efforts, performance, going beyond oneself, being paid for one's work, successes, the role model Maya mentioned, social promotion, integration, tolerance, all this, this is what we all want to talk about with you today. And I think that through the sports economy and the rules of competition, success of its integration system, we will share with you the keys of all this. And we will start with an example. The porosity of sports values with corporate values. We'll start with Daniel Val. Daniel Val, are you a bicycle man, a former voluntary president of the Cycling Federation, and you've made you're a banker also, you've used the value of sports as a driving engine for your enterprise. So how can you say these values are shared? So first of all, talk about performance, simply because the enterprises look for performance, and that is the objective of an enterprise, to be as performing as possible, to make profits, and to bring forth satisfaction to its clients. Today, more and more, to contribute to the common well-being. At the Crédit Mutuel Bank, we are very much attached to this dimension. And sport is seeking performance. Seeking performance with a view to our competitors and for ourselves. And this dimension is really essential. And Christophe, everything you've said in your presentation on the values of sports, of excellence, of fair play, tolerance, the values of inclusion, well, it's clear. Obviously, the introduction proposed by Maya is quite pessimistic, I must say. And you said that sports and derivative activities represented 1% of the GDP, but how much well-being does it generate? Entertainment, how much does it contribute to well-being? And yes, of course, I know it's difficult to figure out, in terms of results. contribution to well-being when enterprises encourage sports practices, and we do that. We install showers, for example, to enable our employees to come with on their bicycles, to eventually do their jogging during the midday break, and it's also the organization of competitions, as we see in large companies. We create culture, create value, we create a team spirit, and enterprise, of course, boils down to a team spirit, which is essential for the quality of the performance, but it's also the well-being. Tonight there's a football match, very important. It would be great if on the 14th of July we could continue the national to celebrate the 14th of July along with the victory of France. In the present context, it would be absolutely formidable for France, especially being continued by the Olympic Games right after, and we hope that these Olympic Games will be a great moment of joy, of warmth for the population. Inclusion factor, no doubt for me. At the Crédit Mutuel, we've always been the partners of support life, associative life, far from the extremely high wages paid to some stars, essentially, in football. And the support we can bring to this association fabric to generate cohesion in the territories, and this enables encounters that would not have been possible. We can say culture allows for that too. Sports is an easy way to integrate, to get together and to share activities together, especially when you're in playing team sports, for example, on a field. There are some exceptions, of course, and we really build cohesion and a strength to move ahead. So I understand that this economically, we can't put figures on that, but the reality in the field, as a lot of us experience it, there will be probably some sport directors here in this room, but we know that this gain, can't put numbers on it, but it's essential. Another example on health this time. At the present time, the big national cause is to move 30 minutes a day. We are partners like many other companies, and we encourage this internally. And once we said that, we said we wouldn't stop at the end of the year. It's not because doing sports 30 minutes a day or being in motion 30 minutes a day, that it should stop on the next 30th of December. No, it has to be continued. I'd like to conclude with one point. It's our human resources people that tell us. Crédit Mutuel is identified as being a bank close to sports. A lot of candidacies of former sportsmen want to join us after, and obviously, clearly, it's an asset, even when the sports person is still in action, in activity. We know that he or she needs time, but we take the bet to take them with us, because we know then we have very good perspectives with these people. We have among our management a lot of former high-level sports people who today share the values of sports and performance, team spirit, tolerance, and of course fair play. And a bit of fair play in a major corporation does a lot of good, believe me. Thank you, Daniel. Daniel BAAL from the CIC. We continue with the presentation before we open up the debate with Boris GHIRARDI, who's with us, an athlete, founder of Level Up. I promised a great breath of optimism and the keys of living together. We'll do that with you right now, Boris, to recreate a society, to make sense. You're a model of performance and resilience. An example, a high-level sportsman. You had a motorcycle accident and you recovered and became another ultra high level sportsman, ultra trailer, and you represent the big brands, and you really represent the nobleness of sports and excellence, and your example is inspiring. Give us the modus vivendi here. How do you operate? Well, thank you. I wanted to start by saying that I'm a perfect counterexample of Maya proposed in the introduction. Sports for me, I will not talk about. I wouldn't be here today if there hadn't been sports. I couldn't have recovered if there hadn't been sports. I would not have been able to carry my daughter on my shoulders if there hadn't been sports. I wouldn't be here if sports hadn't been there, if I hadn't had sports. And for me, it's essential, it's vital. I am condemned to practice sports. It's a sentence, but somehow there's something that's essential. As you can see, it's to be able to have access to sports. What I wear here, the blade I'm wearing, a few years ago it cost 10,000 euros. If you go in a sports shop and you say, I want some running shoes and it's going to cost 10,000 euros, you're going to do another sport. But for us, it's all the sports that are like that for the physically disabled. So there's a question of access, a real question of being able to access the sports. To have access to sports, you have to go beyond that. The public authorities, enterprises, I have enterprises like the Crédit Mutuel who are involved in associations, involved in the development of sports in small structures. It's essential, it's vital. Very important today for me, being able to incarnate sports and the possibility to access sports is very important. And for the person who's just had a serious accident on his hospital bed, to know that it's possible, it's of prime importance, and that they can go and knock at the door of any sports club and be heard and hear that they are welcome. Yes, come and share our values and share. I've always been in sports, and when I wanted to do sports again, I was really well greeted and welcome without any questions. And I have a buddy, I have a friend, I'm from Toulouse, I have a buddy who plays at the Stade de Toulouse, and I come across him in the street, he sees my prosthesis and he says, oh, something happened to you, huh? Right? Yes, something happened to me. He says, you okay? Yeah, okay. So you're going to come to the barbecue on Sunday. And it was his only concern, because in fact he asked me a simple question, is everything okay? I said, yeah. So he doesn't need more, because for him as a sportsman to say, you okay, it means that I can train again, that I can redo everything. So for him, that was what was essential. Back to life, that was, and today, if there's a message I want to pass on, is to say that sports is essential. It's the only place where we can all go. We won't be judged. We will be equal. You're physically disabled, okay. You're of such and such a color. I'm fat. I'm tall. I'm small. No, come, do sports. Come with us, share. And then there's the question, in my case, of difference, how you are perceived in terms of difference. And that in sports, I surf, I surf in the summer, so obviously change on the beach to get on my surfboard. And I changed clothes on the beach, and the first time I had to take all my clothes off, well, then I take my prosthesis off, and I see that I was amputated, and the first time I was a bit, I wasn't comfortable. And well, going back and seeing how people looked at me, well, he doesn't have a foot, but he's missing a foot, but he still can surf. And this helped me go beyond this image. I have a small game to play here so that you understand what the difference boils down to, and how we consider the physically disabled handicap. See, you see my prosthesis, it's visible. In fact, It's hard to say, to think that this guy does marathons and mountains, mountain areas and things. Okay, but the look that you have on the handicap is biased by the prejudice we have. But I'll show you an example on how we can look at the handicap. Daniel, can you remove your glasses, please? Could you read a text there, a small text? No. So you're in a state of physical disableness, and what you have in your hands is a prosthesis. Did you consider him as a person physically disabled? No, not even. You didn't even ask yourself the question. You don't consider that man as being physically disabled. I'm not different. I have a process. If I remove it, I can't walk. If I put it back on, I can walk, run, and do all kinds of things. So we see that the way you're perceived it's very subjective in society, but it disappears completely when you practice sports. It's something that people don't even look at. I do awareness raising in schools. And the children, after 30 seconds, they no longer look at the prosthesis. They forget it. For them, I'm Iron Man, and full stop. Yeah, how do you do this? How do you climb the mountains and things and that? Those are the values of sports. And that's what you can seek in sports. And in fact, economically speaking, it's a bit special to study. You can't put numbers against, what that all boils down to. But I do research and development for Salomon to make the tools accessible. I do cross-country skiing. We don't have equipment for that, so we're developing all kinds of things to make them accessible. All kinds of equipment. And economically speaking, it's zero for Solomon. They lose money with me, but on the other hand, by developing things with them, by working on these projects, well, what happens is the enterprise started communicating within the company. There are departments that didn't work together that started working together because it was a source of performance, new performance for the company, better communication. It was a source of reflections. And today, there are shoes that are proposed on the market that were developed to enable me to run on ice. I have crazy ideas, forgive me, but... So today, if you go on the site of Solomon, you'll find a pair of shoes for you, valid people, so that you can run in the snow or ice. So it's an innovation that came out of because of my blade, I couldn't run on ice or snow, and they developed something, and okay. And now you have shoes for valid people, so there's an economy, there's a business model, it's possible, you just need to have a broad way of thinking. Thank you very much, Boris. So we're with Stéphane PALLEZ, the CEO of the Française des Jeux. And again, with you, Stéphane, we have a formidable example of the porosity between the world of sports and the values of sport and the values of corporate values. So how it's porous, how it's pervious, all the exchanges of value and ideas and technologies. So first of all, for you, Stéphane, sports is part of your commercial targets, of course, with betting, and you've made of your investments in sport part of your business model. You sponsor Olympic team, Paralympic team, 9 athletes, I think. No. Oh, explain that later. So, talk about your commitments and value as well. Maybe what I'd like to say is that in the end, despite the introduction that explained that we are still wondering on the economic impacts, I'll say I'm very optimistic, like my neighbors here, on the economic impacts, positive economic impacts. Because sports is a social fact. Irrigates the vision we have of society, how we can project oneself in society. And I would say it's a political element in the noble sense of the word. And it's difficult to study, but I think on the other hand that it's extremely positive for society as a whole. So it's with this vision, while the sector of sport bets was not developed, the Française des Jeux started investing in sports 40 years ago. So for that 40 years, thanks to very good tax on bets, we financed the Sports National Agency, which, as specialists know, finances sports, performance sports, but also sports on the whole territory, access to sports on the entire territory. And we can, of course, talk in extenso on this. And the Française des Jeux for 40 years has developed beyond this tax. There's some very good taxes when they're properly used. Has developed an action in sport because, in fact, we think that it is in line with the vision of our enterprise, our corporate vision. A business to have a durable and sustainable growth, and that is really involved in the community. It needs to have an impact, and the sports are part of the levers through which we can have the most impact. So there are a lot of examples that we could mention. If I mention just a few, for the Française des Jeux, we think that sports is a lever for integration. I think integration has economic impacts, and when you finance the Diomed Academy, I don't know if Bernard Diomed and his spouse, his wife, are here in this room. Bernard Diomed being as a great football player who won in 1998, he created his academy, and thanks to sports, he takes kids in poor neighborhoods, and he follows them through their school path. They have better results than the national level. They have better results at the different levels of their schooling. 75% of them are professionally integrated, whereas in their districts there are only 45 of the same category. So it's not economy, but in my opinion, it has an economic impact, because education, all economists will agree that to raise the level of education of the population has very beneficial economical impacts. And again, we're talking of a population that has difficulties to access education and employment. And so integration. We could talk also of inclusion. In inclusion, well, you can talk of the fact that since our inception, we finance major athletes, whether Olympic or Paralympic athletes. The idea is to be an athlete. Whether you're disabled or not doesn't make a difference. When you support athletes in the long term, we've been doing this for 40 years. Of course, for the Olympic Games, well, we selected 52 athletes, whether able or disabled. There are some 30 that are qualified in the Olympic Games, for the Olympic Games, because we supported them over time. And the other disabled athletes were all selected in the Olympic Games. So higher level of performance, incredible level of performance. And what is very strong in society is the role models. And I think that for all of us, and not notably the young people who find it hard to project themselves in success models, and I think sports people play a key role as role models. And this was mentioned by others. If France could look like its football team, it has two characteristics, this football team. One, that it's founded on merit. If you're not the best, you're not in the national football team at the top level. And secondly, it has role models other activities don't have or professions don't have. I think that to promote inclusion for a civilized society, in my opinion, that has a strong impact. Difficult to measure by economists, but it works. And a third example that is of importance to me, and that was mentioned is that through sports, you can promote something that is called gender equality. And we're all very much attached to that. And as for other topics like in boards, corporate boards, for example, you have to make an effort. When I arrived at the Français des Jeux, they said we have a wonderful cycling team. It's a popular sport. We have our customers on the side of the road. But why not have a feminine cycling tour? And we will fight to have a Tour de France for women. And so also through this, we can create role models for equality, and they work very well according to the testimonials I get. So I'll stop here, not to be too long.
Merci beaucoup, Stéphane. Alors on a un autre.
Thanks a lot, Stéphane. We have another sports person with us. Karate. A black belt. This is a title that I got. French champion in karate, French champion in rugby, PhD as well, and you are the president of the Provence-Côte d'Azur Council. Maybe you will get a majority that will look like the majority of tomorrow, with Greens, people from the right, people from the left. That's quite interesting, by the way. There's a lot at stake because the region is invested in sports, and there will be the Winter Olympic Games in your area, in your region. So it's a matter of values, isn't it? I'm not negative. I'm rather positive, like the other panelists. I've been very positive. You've said that the politicians, didn't do a good job. Let's see what's going to happen on Sunday. Nothing to do with Sunday. So 57% of the votes. This is what I got. So maybe you will be able to talk about it at a later stage. Sports and education. They are intermingled. The values of sport, respect your opponent, personal effort for self-respect. You have sports and performance. So when you do sports, is it a matter of performance, or do you practice sports as part of leisure activities, sports and integration? Sport and finance and economy, with the economic domino effect of sports, sports and politics. This is something that you alluded to. We'll see what comes out on Sunday. I was re-elected, and I had an approach. This is the political project that is on offer, from the Greens to the Gaullist. So I won with 57% of the votes. At the national level, it's different. In the first round, you choose. Second round, you eliminate. We'll see what comes out of it. And there's a different trend between the first round and the second round. I'm not here to talk about politics, because we changed the timetable. I'm against the extremes, by the way, but I give you some avenues regarding sports now. So I grew up within a culture of sports. I was on rugby fields. I practiced collective sports and individual sports in the Provence-Côte d'Azur region. 20% of the inhabitants, 1 million people who are members of a club, and they practice sports on a regular basis. That's huge. And the members will buy some drugs in order to improve the performance. So if I've got 1 inhabitant out of 2, I think that there are some drug deal points. Regarding economics now, as far as I'm concerned, I like sports, I like the economy. We haven't talked about sports and health. Sports and health, this is something that is important as well. In the Council, we take into account the big international events. We build on them. because big sports will improve, and sports that have a low profile will be able to develop themselves. At the Velodrome Stadium, 60,000 people, 60,000 spectators for a rugby match. So they will drink, they will dance. For the football fans, I mean, they will break the bus, they will loot the coach, they will loot the cars. So in a stadium, you have a spirit of togetherness, whatever the type of sport. But football is different to rugby. So you've said that we're in Paris. So what about the Olympic Games? How will they unfold? That's great for France. That's great for Paris. There are some friends from Paris. They've told me, I mean, I want to leave Paris. Okay, leave Paris. But that's an incredible opportunity for us, because the President of the Republic, the sports movement, managed to get the Rugby World Cup. More than 400 million for the 10 matches. The bars, the cafes, the hotels managed to get some earnings with the Rugby World Cup. The South Africans, they won the Rugby World Cup, and they were in Toulon. They were based in Toulon. So they were winners. So I think that they kept good memories of France. But 400 million euros in terms of direct revenues. For example, we want to get the sailing race at Marseille. I got this mission with Mr. Godin. We were facing different people, the people from La Rochelle. But at the end of the day, we managed to get the sailing race. So we fought tooth and nail, and we superseded the people from Brittany, from Bordeaux, from La Rochelle. So we managed to get this sailing race. 40 million investments will be allotted to the nautical base, and there will be a 40 million euro blueprint. We sponsor the sportsmen and sportswomen, and our region will be at the forefront, because all these events will be beamed live on TV. Sailing is different to football. So you have some athletes who've already practiced. So it means that you have a kind of direct and indirect secondary economy, plus an image. So these big events are pivotal. Regarding the Winter Olympic Games, I love skiing. I come from the mountains. I wanted to be a ski instructor. Do I ski well or badly? Versus an urban dweller, my level of ski is good. I grew up in the Dubai Valley. I grew up with Kelly, Barnier. They organized the political and sports games. So the Provence-Alpes Côte region could get the games. Of course, I mean, I didn't tell much about it. So we will organize the Winter Olympic Games in the Provence-Côte d'Azur region. This was my proposal, and my colleagues told me, "Are you mad? You haven't organized the World Championships." But even though we have great champions, Sarrazin, who got some medals. We have snow, slopes, chalets, but we've been disqualified because we didn't dare applying. But we decided to apply, so we overcame the obstacles. Of course, I mean, you can get the Olympic Games, the Winter Olympic Games, but you need to cooperate with the Northern Alps. So I decided to turn to Mr. Fouquet, and we decided to cooperate. And the people in the Northern Alps, I mean, they hate the people from the Southern Alps, and they told me, okay, you can win without them. We have the bobsleigh slopes. But you can win alone, but it's better to cooperate together. The Southern Alps will host the Olympic Games with the closing ceremony, with the award medal ceremony, and all these types of sports for young people, a skateboard, and that's very good in terms of the region's image, the ski resorts. They told us at the start, I don't care about the Olympic Games, but now they want to make sure that they get the rings, the Olympic rings. So we managed to thwart the Swiss. We managed to defeat the Swedes. We managed to brush aside the Americans. For 2034, we've got the signature of the President of the Republic and the Prime Minister, but we need to present the final signature because some investments will have to be guaranteed. So I'm just looking forward to the next Prime Minister being appointed. We've said that politicians are useless, but it's a matter of willingness, in fact. So if we managed to get the Olympic Games, it's because of the politicians. It's for our athletes. It's for our scenery, our mountainous scenery. We can develop our regions. So I've got some problems with people from the Hautes-Alpes. Why do we do the games? Why do we organize the games? Because it takes 5 hours from Marseille to Briançon. And if you consider the redevelopment regional plans, this line is excluded because you are only 100,000 people and some big works will have to be conducted around Marseille Force. So if you've got the Olympic Games, there will be a night train, there will be a link to Grenoble, and you will go to Marseille in 3.5 hours, and it's totally different. So the Games will decarbonate the region. I was a bit long, but sport in general, and for those who've practiced sport, they need to respect the others because there's a sense of self-respect. They respect their coaches because the coaches taught them how to suffer. I'm talking about all kinds of competitions, even district and neighborhood competitions, 11,000 clubs in the region. So we need to remind them of the fact that with sports we can highlight Republican values that are pivotal. So the sports men and women, they are intelligent, they are smart. There are some people who say that sportsmen, sportswomen are not really smart. I mean, but be careful about that, because lots of sportsmen, sportswomen have managed to branch out in different sectors. Maya, economists have been excoriated during this debate. I'm quite happy because there is a controversy. So I like debates and discussions in the panel discussions. Of course, it's important, I mean, to embark upon controversies. So what are the lessons learned before talking about the impact of sports? I mean, sports is about a quality of life. Of course, we can talk about growth, economic dimensions. You've talked about the club members, 18 million club members. That's important if you consider the daily life of French people. Moreover, the importance of quality of life at work. This is a pivotal point when it comes to enticing employees in the companies. It's about employment quality, job quality. What is important as well are public sports infrastructures and facilities. It's like art. It's important to get a public policy in order to invest in facilities and infrastructures. It's a matter of bolstering urban life. So all these challenges are key, and economists do agree with you regarding well-being measurement. We have economists working on measuring well-being. So all these dimensions are being taken into account. But there's a question. What about role models who can be a source of inspiration? And when do we move to those role models, to the implementation of a macroeconomic policy based on integration? For example, is it an integration solution? So we do agree with a role model that lead by example. But how do we take on board everybody? Zinedine Zidane did better than the politicians in terms of integration. This is what the Home Minister said when France won the World Cup in 1998. Thank you, Maya. Sports and the way sports is practiced. I mean, we tend to talk about an employer's brand. To what extent does it beef up the attractiveness of a company? So it's part of the employer's brand. We at the Française des Jeux, when we became the sponsor, one of the sponsors of the Olympic Games, we are not the biggest sponsor of the Olympic Games because we are not the largest French company, but we are one of the biggest sponsors because everybody knows that we've been investing in sports for the past 40 years. So when people talk to our employees, the employer's brand is good because of sports, because the company has a positive image. For the Olympic Games, there's a marathon race for everybody. It's a popular marathon. 200 people wanted to run the marathon. We had to select 53 people. So we were talking about performance. The employees at La Française des Jeux, for them, sports is an integral part of their working life. In a company, you can socialize. There's a sense of togetherness, and sports is key. And this is part and parcel of the employer's brand with some economic impact. I do share what you've said. So a company can be recognized and acknowledged because of sports, and then you can entice and attract talent. If you consider the corporate life, I mean, we promote sports on a daily basis. In May in Strasbourg, we organized an event bringing together 1,500 people across 18 sports disciplines. It was a 4-day event. It was outstanding, and we received many greetings because of this event. And employees can focus on the quality of performance of sportsmen that we support. We support a skipper in the class 40 rank. Is taking part in the Saint-Malo Quebec race. We look at his position on the race. We have Cofidis, one of our subsidiaries. Of course, in July, we have a look at the performances. And with Cofidis, we are in the advertising caravan of the Tour de France. There's a contest amongst employees because they want to be in the advertising caravans, and most of the time in other companies they are recruiting people from outside the company. So a sport is an asset. It's a matter of beefing up cohesion. With a sports, you can bolster the value of a company, and at the end of the day, you can reinforce performances. A company has to perform, and a sports is a way of achieving this performance. Boris, you talked about the values of a company, how the values of a company have changed. And you are a role model. Your impact, your presence, do they change the way people work in the company? Yes, right. I can tell you that their vision has been transformed altogether. I'm working with the board. I work on the development of Salomon. What will be Salomon like in 20 years' time, in 30 years' time? And this approach is fully integrated. The inclusive role of sports. At Salomon, we have lots of employees who are sportsmen and sportswomen, and we test many products. This is a company geared towards sports. You have lots of high-level athletes who are employees of Salomon, and we did some research on development of tools because we wanted access to sport being cheaper for everybody, for women, for people with disabilities. So with this approach, we decided to embark upon a new strategy. I've been working with an academic specializing in human sciences innovation companies. Working on inclusion means 35% more performance. It's huge because you need to adopt a different way of thinking with sports. So in companies, everybody thinks about sports and everybody should be united. It's a matter of cohesion. In rugby, in cycling, we need to be all together. We need to perform all together. So alone you are fast, and all together we are going further. So Maya will conclude very shortly, but allow me to ask a question to Renaud. Can we apply the PACA model, Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur model, to a country? Can we have a coalition of reasonable people? So PACA does not exist. You have Provence, the Alps, the Côte d'Azur. We are not Pacaians. We are people from the south. We are from Marseille, from Saint-Tropez, from the provincial cities. This is not my question. Yes, but this is my answer. But in the region as well, I've been committed. I'm a right-wing politician, and I tend to add up things. This is my culture. The political project that I presented to the inhabitants was based on a choice. No parliamentarians from any political walks of life. So we had elected representatives representing people. You have environmentalists who are mad. You have environmentalists who are decent. There are some environmentalists who are explaining to you how you will decarbonate with a new type of energy. This is not my culture, but nonetheless, I'm interested in that. In my majority, we managed to get 75% of the votes. 14 political components or parties, they were with me. So we conducted a political project that was clear in the eyes of the population. It was a clear deal. This is the program that we drafted together at a national level. It's different. Why? Because you end up with political families that have nothing to do with one another, especially for the left. You have Mr. Glucksmann, Mr. Mélenchon, Mr. Hollande, and Mr. Poutou. If you look at this coalition, it's a bit weird regarding the far right. They are mobilized, and as far as we're concerned, we are in a complex situation because we are surprised. At the end of the day, you will end up in Parliament. I hope that the country won't sink into the far right. It's important for us to talk to one another. In the past, we made a big mistake. So we decided not to aggregate the terms of office. In a mayor, we are elected on a list, but we can sort out many problems and issues. I mean, the treatment of waste in departments, in regions. I mean, we talked about these issues, but at a national level, when you don't have a local experience. It's the case of many people For example, they were appointed by their political parties without any local experience. So they are sticking to ideology, and they don't talk to us. We don't talk to one another. Remember, in the past, we were working with UDF. I was in the RPR movement, and we were talking together. We were trying to make sure that the city was moving forward. At Parliament, we had we didn't talk to one another in Paris at the Paris Parliament. If you consider our culture, it is not a European culture where you have a majority of projects. It's a confrontation process, confrontational process at the Parliament. We need to listen to people, and we need to have a culture of projects. That's a broad project. It's a bit different to what we did at the regional level. There are lots of tensions. Appeasement is necessary, so there are lots of worries and concern. So we need to focus on appeasement. So from 1% to 10% of the GDP, the contribution of sport to the economy. So 80% of well-being. So by way of a conclusion, I'd like to thank you all. So of course, don't forget to vote on Sunday, and I hope that we'll be able to debate despite our differences and in a spirit of full respect. And long live sports. Thanks a lot.